Hey guys, I'm here with David DeMaio, Syntropy founder and CEO, Syntropy Cloud Mining, in fact. Welcome, David.
How you doing, John?
So I'm very interested in knowing more about why you chose to go independent versus piggybacking off, let's say, the mainstream cloud like Amazon and Google. Maybe you can share that with us.
You know, it's really funny you ask that because I get that question all the time. And just last night, I got that question from my wife. Let me try to find something real quick. Hold on one second. She asked me that same exact question. She's like, David, why are we building our own data center and paying our engineers, this and that? Wouldn't it be easier to just go with like Amazon? Doesn't everybody else go with Amazon, Google? Right. And I was like, yeah, typically people do. I want people that believe in decentralization, that believe that we're creating a new economy, that believe that we're creating everything. They want to align themselves with someone who is independent, who is not beholden by big tech. People that are awake to the censorship that's going on. People are awake to the control grids going on, the technological dictatorship. People that want to align themselves with forward people thinking that are thinking about our future of a decentralized economy.
Right. So how does big tech threaten what you currently do or what you envision doing? So in other words, you can obviously see down the line, if you had to think forward, that there's some pitfalls, right? That can snag you or cause your success to be hampered in some way. Can you see something like that? Is that directly related to your aversion, if I may say, from relying on big tech infrastructure? And for that reason, you went private, secure, for a reason. And it's because I'm saying you see something, right? What is it?
I do.
What do you see that the average, the average crypto user like myself would need to know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what I see when I look at today is I look at the almost a technological dictatorship in a sense, because if you look at big tech, you'll realize that the same hands own the same companies. I.e., you wake up today in 2018, I'm completely mystified that we really only have Facebook and Twitter for social media, and for a search engine, we have one search engine, Google. And you look at Amazon. Amazon has control of, I think, 30% of the web at this point and growing. So, everybody knows, or at least if you're involved in cryptocurrency, that it's decentralized driven. So we can't be thinking in the old model, the old way of thinking of centralization, and push forward with a new economy and an entire new way of life of decentralization. Just not going to work. And one of the things that's going on right now, and right here in a moment, is you have Google working directly with China. If you take a look at Operation Dragonfly, they're creating a censored web. The CEO of Google announced the other day that he envisions the internet itself being split in two. One model of the internet controlled and basically driven by the West and primarily the US. The other model would be driven by China. Well, I love the Chinese people. I think they're phenomenal people and they have a wonderful culture. But quite frankly, their government is communist and it's controlled. And they're creating a censored model. Well, who's to say Google's not going to use that censored grid here as well? So we have to be very careful with these centralized systems. Everybody loves big tech because you have the illusion that everything is free. And if you've noticed, particularly if you're a tech person, you'll see a race to the bottom on costs. Now everybody, I have a free Gmail account. What else? I don't need email other than that. It's free. I have a free Facebook account. I have a free this. I have free that. So on for consumer level, everything is, quote, free. Well, there's no free lunch in this world. Nothing is free. And the exchange is, you take a look at the comments from Mark Zuckerberg of what he called his users, the disrespect that they have for your data, selling of your data, working directly with China. Look at Operation Dragonfly of how they sell your data to China, how Look how Apple now is completely in bed with China, and how your security keys are sitting in China. And so there's a trade-off. And I can tell you from a tech perspective that there's a race to the bottom on cost, because, for example, Google, Amazon, and the rest of them are destroying their competition. They are eliminating the small guy. You cannot. It's very difficult as a startup cloud service company or a startup hosting company. It's extraordinarily difficult because you're fighting against a giant conglomerate that can take a loss year after year after year after year. So you get junior developers, and you have that people are like, wow, I can go get an instance on Amazon extraordinarily cheap. And so there's this big drive for the centralization of tech, and it's based on the illusion of free and the illusion of cost. Well, at some point, these major conglomerates, companies, have to turn a profit for their shareholders. And what happens when they incrementally or astronomically raise their prices? Once they've destroyed the competition, and once you're fully integrated with them, it's really, really, really hard to unwind. We took on a large client this past 2 weeks, and because they're sick of big tech, they're sick of the $10,000 a month in in support. They're paying about $10,000 a month in support, and their engineers are mediocre. They're just low-level engineers that are servicing the account, and the engineers of this company are much more knowledgeable. So they're like, why do we spend $10,000 for this? And they got sucked in because of, again, the race to the bottom of price, the illusion that it was going to work out well for them. But now that they're entwined with them, the cost is actually really, really expensive. And so they've chosen us, like many others, to migrate. It isn't an easy transition. For us to migrate their entire company off Amazon onto our platform, it's been extraordinarily challenging because there's a lot of moving parts. So moving forward to crypto, if you're entwining your cryptocurrency platform, your whole platform with all of your user base, all of your entire community, your advocates, you're building all your nodes into the infrastructure, you're not going to reverse that process. And so one day when they wake up and they raise their prices that you don't control, one day that they change their infrastructure and you can't do the security that you were trying to do because you're trying to fit a round peg into a square hole. One day when politically they're told at the higher ups to block your IP address or block your ports and you get shut off, what are you going to do then? Then you've got years of development in your sync or entwined into their system, and you're trapped. You can't get out. It might take you weeks, it might take you months to unwind that and move it over. It might take you years. So we're using a lot of forward thinking and a lot of insight to saying, you know what, we don't want to be part of that. We want to build our infrastructure, our entire system from the ground up. Literally, like I said earlier, our electricity, our fiber grid, our data center, our machines, our network, our engineering platform, our software platform, everything from the ground up, from the bottom of our backbone of our network, all the way up to the highest layer, what you see on the screen, is 100% proprietary. We're independent, and we're free from any restrictions, any rules, any guidelines that may come up or arise, whether it's corporate policy from Amazon, Google, or GoDaddy, whether it's a political that arises at the state jurisdiction or the state or the country level. So again, it just gives us a lot of control, a lot of security. It gives us a lot of flexibility, and quite frankly, it feels really good to be sovereign and to be independent. And it's a good feeling to have. We wake up in the morning every day knowing, hey, we're pushing the envelope of technology into a realm, and we're doing things that haven't been done yet. It's really challenging. This is the fuel that drives us. But we're not owned by anybody, and we have no restrictions. And really, it's almost like, John, it's almost like waking up one day and having an open canvas and having this, you can sit and look at the beautiful sunset, and you can paint that beautiful sky any way you want. And then as you're painting, you realize you can just modify it any way you want, and you're not answering to anybody. And this is really one of the main reasons why we've been able to build things so fast, so efficiently, so secure, because we have control of it from the ground up. To me, that's very powerful. And I feel very blessed, feel honored. I also feel it's been validated by our peers. We had the conversation earlier about a number of different cryptocurrency organizations that are wanting to build on our platform because they see our passion for independence, for sovereignty, and they see that we're crypto purists that want to live within the realm of the decentralization, and I'm appreciating the validation of our hard work. And again, I feel very blessed and very honored to be in that position, and it's really exciting, very exciting.
That's awesome. It was great talking to you and hearing more about the current developments. So moving forward, I think what will you share with us next week? What are we going to talk about?
We do a lot of talks, and a lot of times, I'm a tech person. I'm told that I get a little too techy and I get a little too granular, and it's really hard for me not to do that. And I think I want to challenge myself and really take things up to the higher level and say, what's Syntropy's value proposition? What makes us tick? What is our value? What are some of the advantages, that the average user can have from utilizing our system? Right. I want to probably maybe just a high level discussion about our bots we're engineering and our ability to reach out to a wider marketplace. Maybe we'll talk about transparency. I've said from day one of how important it is to be transparent, and this is really where all of this entire infrastructure came from. Is one day I decided that I wasn't happy with all the other crypto mining predecessors that I've seen, because quite frankly, they're not transparent. You're seeing just numbers on a screen. And so I had a desire to build something transparent from the ground up and be the world's most transparent crypto mining operation on the planet. And I feel very proud that we've done that. Every single transaction, every single hash string, every single thing you see on our platform is validated by the community block explorer that we don't control. It's controlled by the communities of the different coins. And so it gives the end user the peace of mind knowing that they don't have to believe us, and they don't have to just trust in what they see. It's all validated, and it's validated by a decentralized network of thousands of nodes worldwide that are sharing the same data. So maybe that's another topic we can dive into. But again, I think I get stuck in the too technical terms. Maybe we bring it up to the higher level and really just talk about our value and what makes us unique and different.
Yeah, I guess where we're sitting is it's on the cusp of it's new disruptive technology. The world is being changed as we speak. In many ways, as these technologies overlap with our current lives. And I think we don't really know what it looks like going forward, but we do control quite a few parameters in our control, right, of how things could look and could be without just relinquishing it to other decision makers. And I mean, that's the exciting part, is moving forward, that we do understand the technology, but yet that is not really where all the value sits. I mean, there's the bots. I mean, the bots is also exciting. I mean, the idea that instead of putting humans to slave work, we're putting bots to slave work, right? The bots are doing the work, and they are actually enabling the human being who's staking coins with Syntropy to be able to go and enjoy a more peaceful life, walking in the forest, for instance, while the bots mine. I mean, that's a great vision to aspire to and look forward to. And I think we could probably talk more about what that looks like. What does the bot look like, because we know that that's software, and for a lot of people it might be hardware in their minds. Like, we've been introduced to robots all our lives, so it might be worthwhile just diving into what the automation of bots are at a future discussion maybe next week. So.
Yeah, I'd love to dive into that because, frankly, I think that our value is really transpiring into the fact that we were a 100% human company where we're building things manually, part by part, piece by piece. And now I call ourselves the human hybrid machine, where we're a hybrid between the human manual task and a lot of bots and a lot of AI that are doing a lot of automated tasks. And eventually we're moving into a 100% automated machine. So our mining operation will eventually go from the hybrid it is today into 100% automated. And then eventually we'll move it into the blockchain and it'll be completely 100% decentralized. I think that's very powerful. And but again, and I love to have these conversations for hours on end. At the core, who I am is an engineer, and I'm passionate about servers and computers. But one of the advocates brought up last night, the obvious is like, David, you really do deep dives into this technological conversations, et cetera, but I think you're missing the big picture. And most people I talk to, quite frankly, they don't even know what the blockchain is. They don't even understand what cryptocurrency is. They don't know how it's going to be used in their general life. And it really hit home, and I think he was dead on. And I really would love to speak to that. Maybe at some point we need to bring our discussion really at the highest level and really share with people the beauty or the dream of transformation that cryptocurrency will do. Because quite frankly, that's where the core of who I am as an engineer from an intellectual or maybe a left brain perspective. But in my heart, what drives me and gets me out of bed every morning is knowing that we are transforming into an entire new economy, an entire new way of life, entire new way of thinking. And in my opinion, it's going to transform humanity and our planet for the positive. People scratch their head, and even people that are in crypto and are puzzled when I say that. I had dinner with a guy the other night, and of course cryptocurrency came up because I'm passionate about it. And I said, yeah, it's going to completely revolutionize humanity in the world. He's like, how are hash strings going to change humanity? He's like, how is hash strings going to, or digital data going to help the planet? And so I got into a deep 1 hour discussion of it, and it made a lot of sense to him. And so maybe that's something we should dive into as well, because I think people are missing the important point. The important point is we're in transformation right now for the positive, and cryptocurrency is way, way, way more than just digital data and ones and zeros on your screen. And it's much, much more than Bitcoin. People get lost in Bitcoin. So much negative publicity about it. Another advocate brought up last night. He's like, yeah, I've talked to 3 people in the past week about it. And they said, oh, well, isn't that Bitcoin thing? Didn't that crash? So there's so much negative press and publicity about Bitcoin. Cryptocurrency is not about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is where it started. And Bitcoin is, I love it in many respects. But quite frankly, it's just a store of wealth. It's just a transfer of value, right? It isn't multifaceted like a smart contract. It isn't multifaceted like a utility token. And it isn't where we're going. We had this conversation earlier where we're going to be, integrating existing businesses with a lot of data. So there's a lot of really great topics to cover for sure. So Google's CEO just announced that he envisions 2 separate internets, the internet dividing in 2. Well, quite frankly, I envision a whole nother internet that completely exists outside the centralized grid that we have right now, based on the blockchain. A decentralized internet that's going to live outside of our existing control grid. And here's why. I think many people listen to this probably have recognized at this point that there's a heck of a lot of censorship going on. There was started with a censorship of a conservative talk show host, And then it started to spiral out to many others. In one day, within 12 hours, 24 different social media outlets and different tech conglomerates censored the this talk show host. Okay, and then within a few days, there was dozens of others that were censored as well or deplatformed. Now this is scary, and whether you're left or right, you're libertarian, you're constitutionalist, you're Democrat, Republican, it really doesn't matter. You don't want censorship. And when I look at the internet today, when you Google cryptocurrency news, the top 20 results is always CNN, MSNBC. It's all the main control grid networks, the media networks. And so all you see is negative news. And it really proves to me that there is a control grid in place. There is a technological dictatorship and a control of the free flow of information. There is censorship. Now, back to your question on, for example, Amazon. Amazon right now is not restricting cryptocurrency. They have a wide open gamut. You can mine, you can run nodes on it, et cetera, et cetera. I consider this a potential honeypot of a disaster. What I mean by that is that, can you imagine building your whole platform, your whole infrastructure on Amazon, for example? You're building all these nodes, you're building this mining platform. Well, imagine one day, just like they did for the conservative talk show host, out of the blue, they decide they want to pull the plug. Well, that's very easy to do. I used to live in the Caribbean back in the early 90s, and we were using some of the first VoIP technology. We were also using streaming music with Napster, etc. Well, all of a sudden, out of the blue, Cable and Wireless, the ISP at the time, just went and blocked the port. And overnight, we no longer had the ability to do voice over IP telephony. We no longer had the ability to stream videos. So it literally was someone in the data center at the local ISP that flicked the switch and said, "You're off. You're done." So reverting back to what I said about the deplatforming of people right now, the censorship is going on with social media, Twitter, Facebook, Google, YouTube, Spotify. Then my past experience when Cable Wireless was just out of the blue, just shut you off. I envision the same exact thing is going to happen with big tech. Let's face it, cryptocurrency is disruptive technology. Cryptocurrency is going to change our financial infrastructure. It's going to change our telecom infrastructure. And it's going to change a vast variety of industries pertaining to technology, medicine, pharmaceutical. So at some point, it's pretty obvious to me that big tech will simply shut off crypto. It's going to be a very dark day. It's a very, very difficult day for crypto, and it's going to be a disaster. But we're going to be immune to it. And we believe we have the foresight to see this coming. We're building it far in advance to anticipate this happening. And I encourage our peers and everybody else out there that's doing cryptocurrency to really start thinking about this very seriously. And if you are building on GoDaddy, Google, Amazon, you are essentially setting up for a potential for disaster. Because at some point, the layer of censorship will come in, and it will again be a very difficult day for crypto. And let's face it, let's look at it like this: the purpose of cryptocurrency, the Satoshi dream, was decentralization. Decentralization is extraordinarily important for personal freedom, for liberty. When you look at decentralization throughout the history of humanity, just a brief look into the political aspects of it, humanity has always been under dictatorships, monarchies. The founding of this country, of the U.S., was people primarily coming from a monarchy that came here and said, "I want to create a different form of government, we the people. I want a decentralized government that's going to be controlled from a localized area." So from your local government was paramount. Your states were sovereign. on their 10th Amendment. So there was a drive for a political decentralization, and that is why this has been the engine of prosperity and freedom here in the U.S. It wasn't until we started consolidating power into smaller and smaller hands that it's been changing over the years. But you know, the Satoshi dream, the initial engineers of cryptocurrency, the dream of cryptocurrency is decentralization. So I guess I call myself a crypto truist, a purist, excuse me. I call myself a crypto purist. And what I mean by that is a crypto purist is someone that believes in the initial Satoshi dream of decentralization, where we would have power distributed evenly throughout the planet. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. And I'm thinking more specifically along those lines, just backtracking to what you said about big tech data and their data center servers. I guess it's quite yeah, I think it's quite dangerous to build a business on, especially in the crypto blockchain environment, on third-party hardware, right? At this point in time, data center hardware that you don't have access to directly, right? Because if you're working with, for people who don't know, they can access a server with many third-party cloud providers, but you don't have physical access to the actual hardware, the node itself, you don't even know the location. It's an IP address, and it's sitting in software, right? Somewhere. That is really your access. It's a software access to hardware processing power. Give me some more idea of how the newbie, let's say, getting into or wanting to learn more about crypto mining, how Syntropy is different from the average guy using nodes on Amazon or Rackspace to do mining. Like there's a physical limitation, I guess, right? Because these servers are very mass configured, I guess, right? Versus your individual needs.
Yeah, all right. Let me give you a small technical deep dive real quick. And, individual tech guys out there that are building nodes and they're piggybacking off big tech, they essentially will get a VPS or a virtual private machine, and they get assigned an IP address, processor, RAM, etc. And you feel like you have full control because you have root access to that VPS, and you feel like you have control because you control the operating system and your firewall and all these different things. But in reality, you're just a dot and a C. You don't have control of the hypervisor. You don't have control of the overall infrastructure. You don't have control of the hierarchies of security and everything else. You just essentially have control of your little, again, a drop in a sea, a droplet if you're on DigitalOcean, for example. So it's vastly different than saying, you have complete control from the ground up. Your pipe, your machinery, literally your machines that lay on the racks, your hypervisor, your network, your security, everything. And if you really just really getting to the positive, and I guess we're kind of diving into a potential disaster in the future and not having control of your data, et cetera. It's really also important to understand that this is very well thought out from the ground up, i.e., we built this infrastructure piggybacking off gigantic hydropower, right? We're green, we're clean. Our entire, everything comes down to machinery and electricity. Let's face it, it all comes down to electricity. Mm-hmm. Our entire infrastructure is laying on top of 6 giant lakes that are fed by glaciers, that are run by hydropower. So we have extraordinarily inexpensive power that's abundant, that's clean, that's green, that's renewable. Mm-hmm. That starting with our power is very powerful. Then we have complete control of our infrastructure starting at the network level. We control the gateway coming in. We control all the firewalls prior to the hypervisors and the host, prior to ever even getting to the VPSs. So we control all of that. And that's a very important, point to make, because, again, I say this all the time, but I think it's really important to emphasize, we're not trying to stuff a round hole into a round peg into a square hole. We're not trying to modify our system to try to fit somebody else's system. We have our own system, and so when we're building another layer on top of it, it fits seamlessly within our entire infrastructure, and it's very easy to do, and we have full control of it at every level. So I personally don't trust crypto laying on top of somebody else's network that I don't control, that I don't understand. I don't know who has access to it. I don't know who could potentially shut it off. And that's a potentially paranoid or a negative way to look at it. So really, the other way to look at it is an extraordinarily positive. We can roll things out really fast. We can build things really stable, very secure. We can, build things
right. And it makes me think of, I guess we're diving into that because you're not, David, you're not the average software engineer. And, because I've known you a long time, and you are totally passionate and crazy about server technology. So when I say you're not the average software engineer, you're not just a coder that has been working with software and interfacing with mainstream systems. You're actually looking at the hardware, building it from the ground up. And I think in some past videos we did, you showed us some of the old hardware, the crates, the old mining rigs. And and I guess it takes that kind of speciality to know from the ground up. How long have you been involved with servers now? 17 years, 20 years?
Well, actually, my entire life. My father was one of the first software engineers, and I grew up with computers and building computers really from the ground up. So I would say my entire life. I've owned my own business for 20, 40 years, and so I would say professionally.
So I think it's important to. Yeah, and I think it's important then to just highlight the fact that you are seeing things that most people will not identify and see. You're pointing at layers in web technology that is crucial to control that most people won't even would take for granted because it's already in place and they're just accessing, like you say, a drop in the ocean. They don't know the limitations they're dealing with, and I guess from a Syntropy mining perspective, you are controlling every bit of processing capability, which plays into the automation that you're getting into, is for these machines to do exactly what you want them to do reliably, consistently over time, right?
Yeah, maybe it's important just to take 10 seconds here, just to kind of 30 seconds to dive into our past. We've been a software engineering company for 19 years now, almost 20 years. And about 7 years ago, we weren't happy with the other options out there for cloud services, the GoDaddies, the Amazons, the rest of them. So we decided to build our own infrastructure from the ground up. Again, it was very well thought out. We wanted to have it on hydropower. We wanted clean, renewable energy. I think, very green. I have a off-the-grid home and solar, et cetera. And it has to be a very stable infrastructure. So the reason why we chose Winnipeg more than just the hydropower is because it literally is on the main grid. There's a fiber grid that goes from Quebec over to Vancouver, and then there's another fiber grid that goes down from Winnipeg all the way through Kansas City into Dallas and Houston. And Winnipeg is actually a NOC. A NOC is a center point or a nerve center for the internet. So it couldn't be more stable. I view it like a T. If you can envision a T, where on one side of the T you have Quebec and then Vancouver, and then down here you have Houston, and up here you have Winnipeg. So we're on the strongest, most powerful grid, the fiber grid infrastructure of North America. And so and to your point, as software engineers and as network engineers and developers and building machines, it's extremely important for us to be fanatical about every single level. You know, our electricity, where does it come from? Our IT, our fiber grid, then layer on top of it, having complete control of our data center, have control of our network, and then building our machines on that very stable, very solid, very secure layer. And then as software engineers, it allows us to have the peace of mind that that's taken care of. And then we start building our platform on top of it.
That's excellent. That's excellent. So what's the path look like going forward? And I don't know if you can share what you've told me in private, which was, and I guess I'll start again because I know I can edit this out. So you told me that you've had some interest in some of the altcoins that are keen on Syntropy's mining infrastructure, right? And I think part of that allure and a part of that appeal is the fact that you are independent and you are private and you have physical control over the hardware that mine. Can you expand a bit on that?
Yeah, sure. It's interesting because I had a conversation with Eric, the NASCO CEO, and I was very flattered when he says, you know, David, I've scoured the planet and I've never found anybody like you guys and what you're doing, because to our point earlier, everybody seems to be piggybacking off Amazon, AWS, or GoDaddy, and he's like, you know, I don't trust big tech to be running our infrastructure. And he says, listen, I want you to be the backbone for our entire infrastructure. I want you to build our nodes for us and host them, et cetera, et cetera. So I was very flattered by that conversation, and it really hit home, and it really validated our hard work over the past 2 decades of building software and our data center, et cetera. So that really made me happy to hear that. But also, BlockLogic has chosen us to be their data center of choice to do their IPFS. Now, IPFS is the Interplanetary File System. I highly encourage people to look that up. IPFS, Interplanetary File System. And what that is in layman's terms is, if you can imagine that you've got traditional data, you've got terabytes of video, you've got 100 gigabytes of images, you have your corporate data, your orders and your supplies, et cetera, employee data, your financial data. Well, that data is too big to stuff onto a blockchain. And this has been the problem to date with cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is very good about and keeping hash strings and keeping transactional data on the blockchain because it's very small and you can distribute it. But where it's fallen down to date is, how do you integrate legacy systems? Hey, I'm running a business. I got videos. I have images. I need to get that onto the blockchain. Well, you can't without IPFS. So what we're going to be doing is, because we're a traditional cloud company first, and now that we're a cryptocurrency platform, we're going to essentially be a hybrid for this coin, where they're going to have traditional customers that are hosting traditional data, i.e. videos and images, as well as providing all the nodes and the mines that are going to process all the hash strings and all the transactional data. So that's very powerful. And they chose us because everything that we just talked about, that we're independent, we're free of big tech, we've built something extraordinarily secure from the ground up, cryptocurrency. I'm on the Bitcoin Green committee, and we meet regularly, and I've had some deep discussions as well. And we're going to be doing something as well. I can't announce yet. I don't have the permission to announce that publicly, but that's yet another one. So I guess to answer your question about our future is extraordinarily bright, because not only are we a traditional hosting company, a traditional cloud service company that's transitioned into a crypto mining cloud platform, but our value is really opening up to being that hybrid between the two and being that bridge between the old, the legacy, and I say old, and really it's today, but it's cloud services today, and the blockchain, which is also today and our future. So we're that bridge or that road between the two worlds. And I think that's extraordinarily powerful. And I feel blessed. I feel honored to be in that position. And, when you put a life's work behind something and then things transpire to this level, it's really, again, it's an honor. I feel blessed to be in this position.
Mm. That's wonderful, David. Yeah, congratulations. You've done a marvelous job getting the company to where it is right now. I guess before we go, share with me one last thing. And I think we haven't even in this conversation mentioned once the term proof of stake. Sorry, proof of work and proof of stake. So
yeah.
Just talking about the interest you have from altcoins, looking a bit more mainstream, I guess, in the crypto field. So what does it look like? What does the future look like, or going forward, specifically in terms of proof of stake? Because it seems like now more so than ever before. We spoke about this, man, months and months and months ago, beginning of the year, and but it seems like it's becoming more a word to explore. And I hear from you mentioned Ethereum is hot on the trail of proof of stake as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, we probably
should have... interrupt you, just to set the question better. So what I'm trying to say is that with knowing that, there must be quite an opportunity then for Syntropy mining moving forward as a proof of stake, let's call it a mining house, and Ethereum following suit, making their protocol, right, available,
yeah,
for Syntropy to get their hands on as a miner. So tell me more about that.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. And in fact, sometimes you get granular and you get too technical and the bigger picture. And really, quite frankly, there's a lot of people probably listen to this that don't know a heck of a lot about cryptocurrency in general. They don't know about the marketplace or the different types of mining. So just a very quick dive into the two different types of mining. There's what's called proof of work, which is the traditional mining that started with Bitcoin, and for a great many years, it was all proof of work. And what proof of work is, essentially, you have to solve a complex equation, a complex puzzle, a logarithm, etc., prior to processing a transaction, delivering coins, and then in exchange, you receive a reward. Well, there's some great strengths about proof of work, but there's also, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many others, that there's some flaws and there's some potential for coming to a screeching halt in the future. Here's why. Because in general, what you are doing is you're competing against all the other miners out there. You're trying to constantly build a better and better machine that's faster and faster. And unfortunately, the difficulty goes up over time, which means that it's getting harder and harder. You have to build a faster and faster machine. It also takes more and more electricity. And in my opinion, it unfortunately is starting to get a lot more centralized. Right now, I think there's only forgive me on the exact numbers, but I'd say 70, 80% of all mining is done really only by like 5 or 6 mining pools. If you look at the statistics, well, that's not decentralized. That's very centralized. What happens if one day those 6 pools to get together and decide to collaborate? So it also, how do you say this? It prevents the smaller person from participating in a sense, because you need quite a bit of money for the machinery, for the electricity, et cetera. And so there's a new model that has transpired over the past couple of years. It's called proof of stake. Proof of stake is vastly different in a sense where you don't need a massive, expensive, super-powered machine to mine. You quite simply need web servers. And since we've been a cloud service company for a long time, this comes second nature for us. We build servers all day, every day. Mm-hmm. And so essentially you need a web server. It goes on a traditional web hosting grid, if you will, which is, in my opinion, the equipment is readily available. It's less expensive, and the web is not going on anytime soon, so it's difficult to block or to try to circumvent. And what proof of stake does is essentially you acquire a large amount of coins, maybe 2,500 or 3,000 coins, maybe 5,000 or 10,000 coins per node, and you take those coins and you stake them, or you embed them into a server. So you build a server, you put up an IP address, you put up some resources, processor, RAM, hard drive space, and you stake them. And when you stake these coins, you provide a number of different functions. Everything from the validating transactions, syncing the blockchain, delivering transactions. You provide a layer of security, decentralization. In exchange, you receive a reward. But the difference between the two, proof of work, proof of stake, is that, in my opinion, the proof of stake is a lot more collaborative. When I say collaborative, it's because it's more like a co-op. When X number of coins go into the system every day, let's say 1,000 coins go into the system every day. Let's say there's 100 nodes. Every node receives 10 coins every day. So as long as you're online, as long as you're doing your job, you're providing security, decentralization, processing, you're going to receive a reward. So it's, again, you are receiving it evenly throughout the network instead of one miner or mining pool winning the reward and fighting over the next transaction. So again, it's collaborative instead of competitive. Why is collaborative instead of competitive important? Well, if you think about it, if you are fighting against the next miner and you are competing against the miner and you realize one day, hey, well, I'm not making the reward that I thought I was, you can jump ship really quick. You can go from Bitcoin to some other cryptocurrency out there and that's doing proof of work. And you can quickly jump from one coin to the next, whether it's Bitcoin or EOS or another one. But with collaborative, you're all in. You're both a user as well as a miner, because you go out and you acquire, you buy a certain amount of coins. That makes you a user. You're an owner of those coins. So you have as a user, you have a vested interest of that coin processing really quick. You want that coin to basically, as a user, be very, very good code base. And as a miner, you also, I'm not probably explaining it very well. Let me backtrack. Proof of work, you don't really care about the coin. You're in it because you want a high transactional fee. You don't really care if a process is quick at all. You just quite simply, it's a little bit selfish, if you will.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, it's a bit of a selfish look at it. Hey, if we entered a race, this analogy just came to mind. Maybe you can validate whether that's an accurate analogy. If we entered a athletics race, let's say we're going to do the 60 meter dash, and I don't know, you yards in the States still, or do meters in running? I'm not sure, but so if we're all entering a race, there's only one winner. The rest go home, right?
Right.
But that's proof of work. But the proof of stake, we all race the race. We all get there. We actually run faster because we are compounding all of our speed together, and we all win. There's no one winner, right?
When you cross the finish line, everybody gets a glass of water. With proof of work, only the winner gets a glass of water, and everybody goes thirsty.
Perfect. Yeah, that's brilliant.
But, the reason why I bring up that point and why it's so important, if you think about it, because as a user, you want longevity of that coin, you want to process quick, you want it to get better and better. So just for ourselves, we are going to be, assisting in the engineering and the code base. We're going to try to improve upon the code base. So in my opinion, all the proof of stake coins are going to get better and better and better. What's the incentive for the proof of work coins to get better? And so I believe there's going to be a lot more development into proof of stake. They're going to continue to get better, more secure, faster transactions. They're going to advance a lot quicker than the proof of work, because again, you're both a user as well as a miner. So you have a vested interest in that coin.
Right. Perfect.
Yeah.
So, so back to Ethereum, just quickly. How does it change the impact with Ethereum getting onto proof of stake? How does that impact Syntropy?
It's huge. It's huge. Well, first off, Ethereum is going to change everything. Ethereum is the second largest coin to Bitcoin. It has the second largest market cap. It was the coin that came out of there that's offering smart contracts, and it's been around there for a long time. And it's a big, giant leap to go from proof of work to proof of stake. They're going to do it in stages. They're going to start going from proof of work to a hybrid of proof of work, proof of stake. I think every 50th block to begin with is going to be proof of stake, and then eventually they're going to migrate and move completely into proof of stake. They are currently working on what's called the Casper protocol, which is a security layer to make it really, really secure. There isn't an exact date when it's coming out. It's a very vague date. They say 2019. So we are gearing up for that as much as we possibly can to the moment that they release the ability to do proof of stake. We want to basically be the first to mine that the first day. And so we don't know exactly what the ROI will be, what the returns are going to be. We don't exactly know what the code base is going to be until it's released. We just know that it's going to be revolutionizing proof of stake in general, especially with the Casper protocol for security. We think that it'll redirect a whole lot of attention into what we're doing. And, you know, I guess I probably never said, and this is a very important point, we are the world's first proof of stake mining platform. And to me, that's huge to be the first. And, you know, we're the first out there. I get a lot of flack at times for saying that. People say, no, that's not true. We've been doing proof of stake for a long time. Well, no, you're basically hosting nodes on Amazon. That to me is not a proof of stake mining platform. We're actually building our very first proof of stake mining platform. There's no one out there I would like to know, and I'd be very excited because I don't think about competition in the old sense. I think that's the old mentality. It's the old way of thinking. I'm really looking forward to other proof of stake mining companies to emerge. The reason being is I want a marketplace. I want a much larger marketplace. I want us to mutually collaborate. And the new ones that arise, they will probably maybe stuck in the old competitive mentality, and maybe they won't work with us. But frankly, I want to see someone build something better than we've built. I want to marvel at their work, and then I want to emulate it and make our system better. Hopefully they'll be marveling at our work and then emulating ours. I want, again, a larger marketplace because, again, I'm a crypto purist. And when you think in decentralization, you don't think in competition. You think in collaboration of your peers. And so, again, to create a much deeper decentralized network, to create a whole new economy, let's have 5 other Syntropy Cloud minings out there, platforms. Let's have 10, because the future will be, on the blockchain, you'll have the trusted names, the GoDaddy, the Google, the Amazon, et cetera, but of the blockchain. And so we're hoping to just be one of them and do our share in that emerging community. But I hope it will be a lot more collaborative than what we're working with now. I hope that we'll work in unison amongst our peers to continue to make these coins better, to make the cryptocurrency in general better, to build better platforms. And so I see our future very bright. I see our future be a lot different than it is right now, where you're not competing, you're not fighting over this or that. You're working harmoniously in unison with each other.